Okay, the first positioning value that we're going to take a look at, as previously mentioned, is called static. And this, out of the 4 values, is probably the easiest one to understand. Now, before I delve into it, I do want to mention very quickly here the concept of page flow. And we've already seen page flow a number of times. What I mean by page flow, or normal page flow, is the order in which content appears inside the browser, right? And again, we've seen this a number of times already. Of course, the heading 1 Ontario appears above Toronto, and then below Toronto, we have a paragraph. And then those 4 divs that we inserted, each appears on their own line because they are block level elements, if you recall. And then all of the content below simply follows the last green div. And if you recall way back when I introduced you to floats, when we were creating sidebars and floating graphics and things like that, all of the content would wrap around the object, right? That's just called page flow. And I think of a river, literally a flowing stream of water. That's the content, right? So what we're going to be doing here when we're messing around with different positioning values is quite possibly interrupting the normal page flow. And I'll get to that in just a little bit. But let's talk about static here. So how the static positioning value works is it's the easiest, as I say, out of the 4 to understand because it's also the default, as if no positioning value were set on the HTML element at all. So in other words, all of the 4 divs that I have here, they don't have any positioning values on them, not yet anyway. If I go back to the code, we haven't specified any positioning yet. So that would be the same as if we were to apply static. That's why it's the easiest one to understand, because it's the default and it's not going to give you a result anyway. In the previous exercise, I mentioned that we could throw in 4 other properties, top, bottom, left, and right, to more precisely position our object. Well, the static positioning ignores top, left, bottom, and right declarations as well. So, as you can see, it seems like it's kind of useless, doesn't it? And it really isn't used all that often unless you want to override a positioning property for some reason. Okay, so elements with static positioning appear in the normal page flow, which is the same effect as having no positioning set on the object at all. So check this out. I'm going to take the first div here, the yellow div, and I'm going to go and set a static positioning, and we should get a grandiose result of absolutely nothing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and find that yellow div inside my code, and I'm going to go and throw on the static positioning value here. So I'm going to go position, just like this, full colon space. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to type in static. There we go. Let's see here. I'm going to throw in top. And then once again, we could throw in a pixel value or something that's measured in centimeters or millimeters, percentages, whatever you want. So throw in some kind of value. Maybe I'll throw in something fairly large, like 50 pixels. And then I'll go left and maybe I'll throw in 50 pixels as well, something like this, right? Okay, there we go. I'm going to save this up and head back to the browser and refresh. And we get a whole lot of nothing. So once again, the static positioning property ignores the top and left value that I had set, and it also sets the object, in this case a yellow box, a yellow div, to appear in the normal page flow, which it already was doing. So again, we're really not getting much of a change. Anyway, there you go. That's the static positioning value. It's kind of anticlimactic, isn't it? And again, it's the easiest one to understand because it's not going to do anything. So it's hardly ever used. But on the bright side, at least we got to see how this is going to get coded in our CSS. And at least we got introduced to top and left, even though they're not doing anything. So I'm going to get rid of all of this CSS that we just inserted there in line into that yellow div, save my file, and promptly move on to the next positioning value that I want to show you. So let's keep moving here.